She whispered, "We have nowhere to go." And he replied, "You do now." There are moments in life that you don't see coming, moments that arrive quietly, in the middle of an ordinary evening, when you're just trying to get through the day. And if you're paying attention, really paying attention, those moments can change everything. This is one of those stories. It was a Tuesday in late November, the kind of cold that doesn't just chill your skin, it gets into your bones and stays there. Snow had been falling since late afternoon, soft and steady, the way it does in the Midwest when winter means business. The streets of Millhaven, Indiana, were mostly empty by 7 o'clock. Most folks were already home, already warm, already grateful for whatever roof they had over their heads. Not everyone, though. Daniel Marsh had just finished a long shift at the hardware store he'd managed for the better part of 12 years. He was 36 years old, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that always looked a little windswept no matter what he did with it. His friends called him dependable. His mother called him her steady one. He called himself tired, but the good kind of tired. The kind that comes from honest work. He was cutting through Birch Street on his way to his truck when he saw them. A young woman standing just outside the entrance of the old Dillard's, the one that had closed 2 years back and never reopened. She was maybe 32, 33, slim and pale, with brown hair falling loose around her face. She had on a light grey coat that wasn't nearly thick enough for a night like this. In her arms, she held a little boy, couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 years old. He was bundled up better than she was, wearing a red jacket and a grey knit hat with a little pom-pom on top. He had a stuffed bear tucked tight under one arm, and his small face was pressed against his mother's shoulder. She wasn't crying. That's what got Daniel. She wasn't crying, wasn't yelling, wasn't doing anything dramatic at all. She was just standing there, very still in the falling snow, with that look on her face that Daniel recognized immediately, the look of someone who has already run out of options and is trying to figure out what to do next. He slowed down. He almost kept walking. Lord knows in this world you learn to keep your head down. You learn that not every situation is yours to step into. But something about the way that little boy held onto his bear, and the way that woman was holding herself together by sheer willpower alone, Daniel couldn't walk past that. He just couldn't. He stopped. "Excuse me," he said, keeping his voice easy, non-threatening. "You folks doing all right?" She turned to look at him. Her eyes were hazel, cautious, the kind of eyes that had learned to be careful around strangers. She studied him for a moment, the way any sensible woman alone at night would study a man who walked up to her out of the dark. Daniel took a small step back, giving her space. He put his hands in his pockets. "I'm sorry to bother you. It's real cold out here. I wanted to make sure you were okay." She held her son a little tighter. Then, very quietly, almost too quiet to hear over the wind, she said it. "We have nowhere to go." Just 5 words, but Daniel felt them like something physical, like the weight of them had their own gravity. He didn't rush. He didn't pepper her with questions. He just stood there for a moment, letting the snow fall between them. And then he said the only thing that made sense to him. "You do now." Her name was Claire Alderman, and her little boy was named Theo. She told him the short version first, the way people do when they're not sure how much trust they have to spend. She and Theo had been staying with her sister on the east side of town after leaving a situation. She said it just like that. A situation that had made staying no longer safe. Her sister's landlord had given them all 3 days' notice that morning. Something about the lease, something about too many people in the unit. Claire had spent the entire day on the phone trying to find a shelter with space, a friend with a couch, anything. By evening, she had nothing. She'd ended up on Birch Street, because it was the one block in downtown, Millhaven, that still had an awning. At least it kept the snow off Theo's head. Daniel listened to all of it without interrupting. That was something his father had taught him years ago. Let people finish. Don't fill in their story for them. Just listen. When she was done, he nodded slowly. My house isn't big, he said. But it's warm. And there's a guest room that's been empty since my mother stopped coming to visit. He paused. I know you don't know me. I understand if that's a hard no, but the offer is real. Claire looked at him for a long time. Theo stirred against her shoulder, and in that small, sleepy voice that only little kids have, he said, Mama, I'm cold. That was that. Daniel's house was a 20-minute drive, a modest 2-bedroom, on Elm Terrace. The kind of house that showed its age around the edges, but had been well cared for. There were boots by the door, a coat rack with too many jackets on it, a kitchen that smelled like coffee and wood, and something that might have been chili from earlier in the week. He showed Claire and Theo to the guest room. He found extra blankets in the hall closet. He heated up that leftover chili without being asked, and set 2 bowls on the kitchen table, along with a glass of milk for Theo and coffee for Claire. They sat together in that kitchen, 2 strangers and a sleepy little boy with a teddy bear. And they didn't talk about anything heavy. Daniel told a story about the time he accidentally set off every smoke detector in the hardware store trying to demonstrate a faulty product. Claire laughed, a real laugh, not a polite one, and the sound of it seemed to surprise even her. Theo fell asleep at the table, still holding his bear, and Daniel very gently carried him to the guest room bed while Claire pulled back the covers. Standing in the hallway afterward, Claire said quietly, Why are you doing this? Daniel thought about it for a moment. Not because he didn't know, but because he wanted to give her an honest answer. My dad used to say that kindness isn't about doing something big, he said. It's about doing the next right thing. Tonight, this was the next right thing. Claire looked down at the floor. People don't usually, she started, and then stopped. I know, Daniel said simply. Claire and Theo stayed for 11 days. In that time, Daniel helped her get connected to a housing advocate at the county office. Claire found a part-time position at a bakery, 3 blocks from a school that had a strong pre-K program for Theo. By the end of the 2nd week, she had a small apartment lined up. Nothing fancy, but it was hers. A place where she could breathe. The morning she and Theo packed up to leave, she stood in Daniel's kitchen one last time. Theo handed Daniel his teddy bear, very seriously. The way small children do when they're giving you the most important thing they own. You can hold him, Theo said. So you're not lonely. Daniel crouched down to Theo's eye level. That's the kindest thing anybody's ever offered me, he said. But I think Bear needs to go with you. He's your guy. Theo considered this. Then he nodded, satisfied, and tucked the bear back under his arm. Claire had her hand on the door when she turned back. I don't know how to thank you, she said. Daniel smiled. That easy, unhurried smile of his. You already did. There's something about ordinary kindness that doesn't make the news. It doesn't trend online. Nobody writes it up or makes a fuss about it. It just happens amid a snowstorm on a quiet street, between 2 people who were strangers 10 minutes before. But that's exactly where most of the good in this world lives. In the small moments. In the next right thing. In a warm bowl of chili and an extra blanket and someone who says, simply and without conditions, you do now. Daniel still has a photo on his refrigerator. Claire sent it a few weeks later. It's a picture of Theo at his new kitchen table, grinning ear to ear. The bear propped up in the chair right beside him. Some things you just hold on to. If this story moved you even a little, if it reminded you of someone you know, or a kindness you once received, or one you maybe passed along to someone else, we'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment below and share your story with us. And if you feel like this is something worth passing on, Please give it a like and share it with someone in your life. There are folks out there who need to be reminded that goodness is still out here, alive and well. Subscribe if you haven't already. We tell these kinds of stories every week, for people who still believe that quiet kindness matters.